All right. So welcome to another episode. Beer Fish Fanatics. This is Granny and My Pop Fishing. I have Mr.
Kit with the Fishing Kit YouTube channel.
There you go. And this week we have a special guest, gentleman. I actually got a chance to listen to his podcast. I was just talking to him right before we jumped on here. He actually did a podcast with Jeff that we had recently and Ross on the Iowa DNR report. So their podcast, which was really cool. So we decided, you know what, we got to ride their coattails and get this guy because his information, knowledge, and that brain of his, we're gonna pick today. So no introduction actually really needed, though. We got Mr. Robbie. Is it Weaver or Weber? I want to make sure I get that one right.
Yeah, it's Weber. Weber like the grill.
So
I told you.
So I guess I owe Fishing Kit a drink because I was like, no, it's Weaver. And he was like, no, it's Weber. So, all right, I owe him a beer. So we got Robbie Weber, and he works for the SUNY or ESF, correct?
Yep, you got it.
Awesome. And he actually was here at I went to Iowa State, also, but he was a grad student at Iowa State before, and we're gonna ask him a little bit more in regards to what he did with Iowa State. We really wanted to learn a little bit more what he did there, and then what he's doing now, and all that good stuff. Because this guy, I'm telling you guys, he knows a lot about muskies, walleyes, all that good stuff. So I'm pretty sure a lot of those muskie heads are probably listening and watching, hopefully, and they can pick a thing or two. So thank you for joining us, Robbie. Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. It's going to be fun.
Welcome.
So
thank you very much.
We all start with the beer. This week, I am drinking a beer from Big Grove Brewery. So I'm drinking it's called the Birch the Bear. I don't know why I made that accent all of a sudden, but it's American brown ale. I'm gonna try this Big Grove Brewery. I think it's in Iowa City. I think I drove by there before when I went to Iowa game before. So what are you drinking today, Kit?
I got one courtesy of Bruno. I got one left from his brewery up in Carroll. It's Carroll Brewing Company.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Carroll Brewing Company. Sorry. Oh my goodness. Struggling.
How many beers are you in, man? How many beers are you in, Kit?
Just one, I swear. But it's a Carroll Light. It's your equivalent of like a light lager, Bud Light, Busch Light, Coors Light, things like that.
Yeah. So I didn't get a chance to get a Carroll beer because I decided to drink extra on the side. So FYI on that. What are you drinking today, Robbie?
I have a beer from out here in New York. So my truck's in the shop. I was gonna go get a nice sixer to have for this, but I have a couple beers in the fridge. I'm drinking the Saranac Permafrost IPA. It's a local brewery out here. We got a ton of beer in New York, and I'm kind of just getting into it all. But Saranac makes a good variety holiday pack with some IPAs in it I like. So,
man, I'm gonna try
green
that
bottle.
Yeah.
Look at that!
Look at that!
Yeah,
that's high class. So the people who are listening on the podcast, he has this bottle opener that is pretty badass. It's a fish. That's a bass, right? Bass.
Yeah,
fish?
I think it's a largemouth. I'm not totally sure.
Bottle opener. It's pretty. It's better than I think Fishing Kid and myself, we did an episode maybe about 20 episodes ago where one of my buddies didn't give me a damn bottle opener, and then Kid dropped his beer in his room when he was doing a bottle opener. We got to get one of those. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
So if anybody's wondering, this brown ale is actually really good. I think it's perfect for as it's getting into fall, almost winter. I tend to go towards darker beers, a little bit heavier. It's almost like a meal in a cup, I guess you can say. So
nice and filling.
Exactly. So, yeah. All right, man, let's jump into it. Tell us. So, okay, if you don't mind, if you want to give us, I guess you can say your background a little bit in regards to how you got into the world of fishing and the world of, Department of Natural Resources, all that stuff. How did it all begin? Quickly, if you don't mind. I know you're from Kansas. I know you kind of started down there. You did grad school up here at Iowa State, and then you just kept going up north, and all the way up to New York. So, I mean, if you don't mind, how did you all get into this world, I guess you can say?
Yeah, no, that's a great, good question to start out with for sure. So, man, I guess I really fell in love with fish at a pretty young age. It all started with just a fish obsession and a lot of fishing growing up. And I don't know, by the time I got to high school, I knew I was pretty interested in science. People always said, if you have something you love and you can turn it into a career, then you're going to live a good life. And so I'm happy to be in fisheries. I started at Kansas State in the Division of Biology, working on getting my degree in fisheries biology there. Did some undergrad research on some of the little streams nearby, some of the prairie streams in the minnow community, but got exposed to a bunch of different sampling methods and working with folks in Kansas. And by the time I graduated, I knew in fisheries and wildlife, a graduate degree really helps you get some of those higher level preferred positions and allow you to work in cool areas and work with cool species. So after getting my bachelor's, I started looking around the Midwest for a master's position. My parents are in Kansas City, so I kind of wanted to stay relatively close to home. Yeah, an opportunity presented itself at Iowa State. So I graduated with my bachelor's in May of 2016 and then started in Iowa in July. Yeah, and I worked with Dr. Michael Weber. We have the same last name, no relation, but we have a couple papers out now that are Weber and Weber, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I started there July 2016, and I got hired on to work on a walleye and muskie escapement project on a couple of reservoirs in central Iowa. So, yeah, and then I guess I could talk about New York a little bit later, but yeah, I'm still just working in fisheries and loving every moment of it.
I kind of want to talk about how I first met you. I posted something on Facebook, like some pictures of me with fish.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, it was a kind of a discreet picture. You can't really tell what's going on in the background, but then I think you either messaged me or commented. And you're like, "Hey, is that Big Creek?" I was like, "Whoa!" Then I was like, "Man, this guy, he really knows Big Creek." And then I was like, "Yeah, man, dude, you're good." And then after finding out about what you do, I was like, makes so much dang sense now."
Oh yeah. There's a couple of musky guys I know that fish brushy a lot, and I can read their backgrounds pretty well. Like I'll go and circle a piece on the shoreline on a map and be like, "Is this where you were?" And I'm not right all the time, but I'm usually pretty darn close. I spent a lot of time on those lakes, that's for sure.
So we're in central Iowa. So I mean, it was kind of cool that Kit actually told me about you, that we got to get this guy on. Probably when we first started this, huh, Kit?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, my buddy Robbie, he works for. Well, at the time you were still working on your master's, and I was like, man, we got to get him on. Why not? I mean, have a guy with your knowledge.
Yeah, I'm happy to come on, man. Happy to do it. How long have you guys been doing the podcast?
Since May, I think.
Oh, okay.
April,
yeah,
May.
so
just this year.
Yeah, I'd have been working on wrapping up my master's then. So yeah.
So what was the journey? What's the process behind getting your master's once you got your what was it, your bachelor's?
Yep.
Yeah.
So in at least in fisheries, there's masters in all sorts of different fields of study, different degrees, but in fisheries and wildlife and a lot of the sciences, a master's in it entails writing a thesis. So basically the majority of my time at Iowa State, I was collecting data and organizing that data and kind of fine tuning, I guess, my analyses and really like what results I was going to present. So I got hired on to work on a specific project, which is Big Creek and Brushy Creek, walleye and muskie escapement, behavior, habitat use, stuff like that. It's kind of broad. And so I knew I was going to be doing radio telemetry, but what data I collected exactly and what results and conclusions I was going to try to come to was it was a decision that I kind of had to come up with myself. Obviously, I tossed it back and forth with my advisor because we don't want me doing terrible research, but so yeah, you kind of design your research project, figure out your methodology, what data you're going to collect and what you're going to try to prove. And after your data is all collected, you write your thesis, you have individual chapters presenting different pieces of your research, and have it all in this cohesive document with a big general introduction, just with some background info about reservoirs and walleye and muskies, and then get into your individual chapters and wrap it all up at the end. What's this mean? How can this be used to improve our fisheries here in Iowa? What's it mean on a more holistic scale for, reservoir management in the Midwest or across the United States? Yeah, and then you have to defend your thesis, which you present it to a crowd. I did that. That's the most intimidating part. I did it virtually, so it wasn't so bad.
Right.
And yeah, I did that in July. And then you work on getting your individual chapters and stuff published. But once your thesis is defended and you do your revisions, you're basically good. So yeah, I got my degree in the mail like 3 weeks ago. So that was a pretty cool deal.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
thank
awesome.
you very much.
And then
Yeah, congrats.
I know you spoke a little bit about this on the other podcast on the IODNR, but okay, explain to an idiot like myself what the hell is radio okay, I can't even say it.
Telemetry.
Telemetry.
Yep.
Right?
You got it.
Oh, there we go. So can you explain that and how, I guess, yeah, just explain that and what you did with that, I guess, in the Iowa, here in Iowa at Big Creek and Brushy.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to do that. Yeah, and if you want to stop me or have any nitpicky questions as I'm going along, just feel free. So radio telemetry is obviously a method of collecting behavioral data on different animals. So depending on your species you're working with, they make radio collars or like external tags you can attach to animals. But for fish, I guess there are external tags people use. Mine were implanted internally. So these tags are, depending on the size of the fish, anywhere from like a small coin battery up to like a size C battery. So, a decent sized tag. And they have a wire coming out of them called the whip antenna. And so these tags are putting out like a pulse signal every 3 to 5 seconds. Basically what I did is I went around the lake in a boat during the open water season or on the ice, just walking around.
Speaking of that, before you continue,
yeah, go ahead.
I remember ice fishing out at Big Creek and seeing, I think this was before I met you, and seeing like 2 guys just walking around with radio antennas. And I'm guessing one of those guys was you.
I'm sure that was me. Yeah. Yep, that would have been me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny looking deal. I get a lot of jokes of people, like, oh, what are you watching or what are you listening to and whatnot. And it's funny. It's funny. But yeah, I'm basically just out there in the boat or walking around. I have an antenna. It's called a Yagi, kind of a funny name, but a Yagi. And then I have my radio receiver, which scans through a set of tag frequencies, which you manually input. And so each fish has its own individual frequency, and you basically go throughout the lake looking for those tags, listening for beeps. When you're not hearing beeps, you're just hearing a whole lot of static. So that's not much fun. So it's better to find fish. When you hear a fish, you can use the antenna and your receiver to get pretty darn close. I'd say within 5 meters pretty accurately. And so what I would do is locate these fish and then take data regarding the habitat these fish were using. So stuff like water depth, water temperature, substrate type, vegetation, whether or not they were associated with any coarse woody habitat, information like that. And then tracking these fish on a regular basis allows you to monitor their movement and determine how much they're moving. So you can determine whether they're moving a lot in the spring and hardly moving during the summer, how much they're moving on a weekly basis based on those locations too. So it really provides some good information about fish behavior. And that provided a lot of valuable information in terms of the broader scope of the project, which was focused on escapement of these fish.
So you would be a professional fish finder for us.
I could probably help you find them. I've spent so much time on those lakes tracking fish. I still can't catch walleye at Big Creek or Brushy Creek.
What?
And I can't catch muskies at either. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. You'd think I'd be able to catch walleye because there's so many in there, but I struggle, man. I struggle.
Maybe it's because you know too much information.
Yeah, I'm probably thinking about it too much. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the tracking, did you notice like any patterns throughout the year, like during different seasons and whatnot?
Yeah, there's definitely some pretty strong patterns to fish movement. Some of the broader conclusions, I guess, both muskies and walleyes are spring spawners. They spawn when water temps are in that 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit range. Mm-hmm. And so my data showed that those fish really did exhibit pretty long range movements during the spring, while movements tended to be more limited in the summer. And then there were some pretty extensive movements in the fall too, when those fish are moving towards wintering habitats and stuff like that. But in general, walleye and muskies in our small reservoirs in central Iowa move a lot. I mean, these fish are riverine. They are highly mobile, and our systems aren't very big. So these fish will move, 200 kilometers in a river. So what are they going to do in a 1,000-acre reservoir? They're going to just run laps, But no, there's definitely some seasonal trends to it. A lot of movement in the spring, a lot of fish located near spillways on rocky substrate in the spring, especially for walleye. And the muskies I don't want to spoil too much. The muskies in Big Creek during the summer are pretty concentrated, man. At least based on the fish that I had tagged, those fish stack up in a few select places. So if you were
to let us know offline.
Yeah, we'll do offline.
Yeah, no, I can't put that out. I can't put that spot on blast like that. No way. But yeah, it's pretty nuts. And I mean, I've tried fishing the spots. I still can't catch them. So maybe you guys can.
You know what? Both of us have never caught a muskie, so I have it, and I know he snagged one, but
I caught an accidental.
I saw that. That was Clear Lake, right?
Yeah, it was.
I saw that video. That's cool.
Yeah. So
I got one muskie last year. It was on a Ned rig. So
go figure.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You'd be surprised what a Ned rig could catch.
That's true. Very true.
Probably,
I guess you could say like. Was there any characteristics of the walleyes that surprised you when you did your study there? I mean, that you're just like, holy crap! Like, I didn't know the walleyes did this or came over here, or you know what I mean? Like, was there anything that just like was just out of the blue? Like, you really learned something about the walleyes?
Yeah, I mean, because these fish have individual tag numbers and stuff, you can kind of. When I'm out there once a week for several years, these fish almost have a bit of a personality in my mind. Like I learn tag numbers. I kind of learn a fish, and those big females in Big Creek, I guess in Brushy Creek too, they move a ton. The big mamas move a lot, but even within a population of fish in a little reservoir, you'll have fish that are highly mobile and fish that hardly move at all, to the point where, the tags are in the water. So if a fish doesn't move for a few weeks, I start to wonder if they're dead or not. You can't really say for sure unless you can recover that tag. But I've had fish sit still for, a month and a half, 2 months, and not totally still, but not do a whole lot of moving. And as soon as I start thinking they're dead, they take off. So, yeah, it's pretty weird. Fish behavior is, telemetry provides some insight into it, but there's a lot going on there that I think is tough stuff to understand. One thing I thought was really interesting at Big Creek is some of those walleyes would go way, way up north, like north of the silt dams.
Man, those are shallow.
Yeah,
like super shallow.
Super shallow. That's like I could hardly get my boat in there, foot and a half of water. And yeah, I mean, there were 25 plus inch females up in a foot and a half, 2 foot of water during certain times of the year.
Wow.
So that was surprising, but yeah. I mean, a lot of the fish movement to certain areas seems to coincide with flow. So you get good water temperatures, you get some moving water, and I think in Big Creek they kind of follow the shad a lot too. So the shad really they're lake wide, but the shad kind of tend towards flow too. That north end up by the silt dams can be packed with them certain times of the year, and the walleye tend to follow. So
when you're talking about tagging fish, like every fish that you're tracking, like you handled and put the tag in and then release back in the water. And how many fish are we talking here? Like at a given moment during your study?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so every fish with the tag is a fish that I put a tag in. Over the course of the study, I radio tagged, I want to say 16 muskies at Big Creek. And this is adults. I did juvenile work too. We could talk about that later. But in terms of adults, I radio tagged 16 adult muskies at Big Creek, and then like 25 at Brushy. And then I think about 42 or 43 walleye in each lake too. Jeez. So quite a few. Yeah, a lot of fish surgeries. Those usually took place in the spring. I'd let the DNR collect the fish for me. They'd shock, they'd net, they'd bring in big healthy fish, and I'd do the surgeries and set them free. So yeah, quite a few fish. I'd be tracking, 30 to 40 fish on a weekly basis at each lake.
Is there anyone who still does this since you've been gone that has been doing this, or how often do they do it at all, or if they even do it anymore still?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So the radio tags have a battery life. Most of the tags I put out are dead or dying quickly, but there's actually an open position for it's a PhD actually, to work on the systems to evaluate the effectiveness of the barrier at Brushy Creek, which just got put in. So it's an extension of the research I was working on. They're hiring a PhD, and they're actually going to be doing acoustic telemetry, which is a little bit different than radio telemetry. Yeah, you actually put out stationary receivers, and they do a lot of the tracking for you. So there won't be anyone out there cruising around with an antenna on a boat. There's these receivers, and you drop them in the lake. You kind of figure out your grid system, and as the fish cruise by them, they just detect the fish for you. You go out there, you pull them up, you download the data, and there you go.
That's super high tech. All of a sudden, man, that's crazy.
It's very sophisticated stuff, but it's really cool technology that has the potential to provide a ton of good information.
There you go, Kit. Apply for it.
There you go.
I'm too dumb. So what was the part that you enjoyed most about like tagging and tracking the fish? Just like actually handling the fish and seeing big fish come in, or like, oh, I don't think there's a fish over here. Then, oh, surprise, there is a fish over here.
Man, there's the part I enjoyed the most is that's a tough question. There were a lot of parts I enjoyed and several parts I didn't enjoy too. I guess the parts I enjoyed the most were definitely handling big fish, shocking and gill netting in the spring. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Some of the walleye and muskies in our central Iowa lakes. I mean, it's stupid. It's crazy. You would never know it if you didn't see these fish come in nets and in shocking boats. So yeah, seeing, I think the biggest muskie I saw at Big Creek was like a 48 incher, but then I saw a couple of 50s at Brushy. And then, 28 to 30 inch walleye, 11 to 13 pound fish.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's crazy. And the numbers of walleye in Big Creek is crazy too. We go shock, we would do 15-minute shocking runs. And in 15 minutes of shocking, we could net 40 or 50 walleye.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just cruising the shoreline at night. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We're going to get a lot of people who said, bullshit. Because you know how it is. It's always been, it's the Dead Sea, I guess, everybody always says, but it's crazy. Like you're saying though, we've seen the DNR pictures. I mean, it's not fake, but I think the biggest thing is that there's a reason why they got that big is because they're not easily caught. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It seems like those real big ones, especially, you can catch them certain times of the year. During the spring's good, and during the fall's good too. But man, those big fish are hard to come by. Definitely. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. The telemetry was fun too when the weather was nice. When the weather sucked, it wasn't so much fun. But I mean, that's Iowa for you, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I mean, overall, it was a really good time.
I mean,
So what was the worst part then?
The worst part?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, probably some of those cold nights on the water. Not gonna lie to you, like tracking into early December, that sucked. Having to cruise the whole lake, tracking when the temperature's at freezing or so. You got ice on the boat, you're cold. It's probably windy because it's Iowa.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean that wasn't much fun. Tracking on the ice, I typically enjoyed though. I'd track, and when I got done tracking, I'd go back to my car, grab my ice fish and stuff, and fish for a couple hours. So can't really complain about that. Yeah, I think those cold nights on the water were probably my least favorite part of the deal.
So ice season's coming up here. I'm just so I get limited timing when I get to go fish because I got obligations in regards to little kids, rugrats. So I need you to kind of put me in the right direction. But any recommendations up in Big Creek? Because it's near us, Central Iowa. I definitely want to hit Brushy. I don't think I've ever ice fished there, so I definitely want to try there. But hopefully I get a chance this year. Is there any advice you would give a person going after walleyes or even muskies? I mean, I don't think you can catch muskie. I don't know. I've never seen catch a muskie through the ice. I think it's very rare, but it happens.
Yeah. It happens at Brushy Creek.
Okay.
When I was in Iowa, I heard about it once or twice a year. It seemed like there'd be a guy crappie fishing and he'd end up catching a muskie through the ice. I don't know if I ever heard about it at Big Creek though, but I would say, man, in terms of advice for Big Creek, that's tough because I'm not very good at fishing that lake. I've done okay there a few times, but never really done that well on the ice. I've caught some crappies and a couple of small walleye, but I guess based on my telemetry stuff and just like general movement trends that have been determined in the past, I would say stick to the south end. Probably you want to find rocks, you want to find steep drop offs. Those fish are probably going to be in pretty deep water, but I've also found them on some 10 to 15 foot flat areas mid lake during the winter. There have been a couple times where those fish have been very, very congregated mid lake in some 10 to 15 foot flat areas. So, I think the fish just follow the shad. If you can find the shad, there's probably fish around. Getting them to bite's a whole different story. I mean, there's so many walleye in that system that anywhere with some structure adjacent to deep water is it's not a bad bet for those fish. But yeah, Brett, you should get out to Brushy Creek. Brushy Creek's a good system. I don't know what you like to target, but the pan fishing out there is really good.
Me. I love crappies and everything too. So
Walleye.
And walleye.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with walleye, man.
Yeah, you can get on them at Brushy, but I've heard it's a really limited window. You got to do it bright and early in the morning or at night, basically. Yeah,
that might work.
I've ice fished Brushy once, and I think the biggest fish I caught was like smaller than my hand. That was between perch and crappie. Like every fish, at least for me. I mean, this was, I want to say, right when I first started ice fishing, maybe like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. All I found was small fish. But that's, just my experience. But I know people have done pretty good out there.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite spots. I don't know if I got out there last winter at all, but the winter before, I spent a fair bit of time out there. I would even go up in the north end past one of the bridges, up in some pretty shallow water in like a 10 to 12 foot creek channel. And I got on decent bluegills and stuff. If I'm catching fish, I can't really complain. And there were a lot of eater bluegills up there, but I also got into a couple of tanker perch, like 11 and a half inches up there. So yeah, I mean, there were a lot more small perch, but there were a few eaters. So
yeah, small perch up in Clear Lake.
Oh
right.
Man, that place is something else.
Yeah, right now the small perch. I mean, they're slowly getting bigger, right, Kit?
I think the average is like slowly getting bigger.
Yeah, because we were there when he caught the because I went to go visit them the day after when he caught that muskie, and we caught nothing but perch the next day. I think
I caught like 50 each, easy
minimum. Really?
Yeah. But I would say about 98% of them were about maybe 8 inches only. Cigars.
5 to 6, I think was the average.
Yeah,
but that was better than like when we were fishing through the ice.
Oh, the ice was bad last year, man.
Yeah, like they were like under 5
inches. Yeah,
it was like what the you wouldn't even, your lure was bigger than what you caught. That's how bad it was at moments there. But it's slowly getting there in regards to that perch up there in Clear Lake. So hopefully give them maybe another year or two. I think it'll be good eater size. Hopefully maybe 2, maybe.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Like the future, like in the next, let's say 2 or 3 years up in that area, but like Clear Lake, as far as the perch are concerned,
and yellow bass, because we love those too.
Oh boy. Well, I know that that big age class of yellow bass that was popping like 2 or 3 years ago, those 10 to 12 inchers, I think they're about fished out. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if you guys have been up there fishing, catching a lot of big ones or not, but my experience on the ice last year was a lot of small yellow bass mixed in with the perch. Obviously you caught 10 or 15 perch to each yellow bass probably, but but there were some small yellow bass mixed in too. Yeah, I don't know if those perch will really stunt out or not. You know, there's a lot of them in there. I think there's plenty of food as well. So I don't really think they're going to stunt out. I bet here in a couple of years it's going to be a banner year for perch fishing on that lake. Definitely.
Good.
Kind of like
Yeah, good. There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like the perch and the yellow bass will kind of like rotate, like have a cycle. Like one year will be good for yellow bass, and then next year it'll be yellow perch. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know about that one, man. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really not sure. I don't know a whole lot about yellow bass, but I mean, as long as you have consistent reproduction and those fish aren't getting stunted out, yeah, I mean, it's just going to kind of come in waves. You'll have a real nice bunch of fish every few years as they're growing to those harvestable sizes, and I'm sure people on the ice are going to be keeping a bunch for sure. So
Yeah.
things are going to fluctuate for sure, but
Hopefully it gets better in regards to that. Yeah, I think I had one of my worst years up there last year, icing, in regards to yellow bass and stuff. I just didn't catch that many, like you were saying. It were all, I barely caught that many that were a good size. It just felt like, versus like maybe about 3 years, I think, right, Kit, about 3 or 4 years ago, man, it was banner year after banner year for a while there for us.
Yeah. 3 years ago, I think, was my first real winter ice fish in Clear Lake, and those yellows were really nice
and plentiful.
There was yeah. If you could stay on them, man, it was crazy. It was an absolute blast.
We remember. I mean, my brother-in-laws, they came here from Denver. They drove here 10 hours just for that.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they did it like 2 or 3 years in a row, huh, Kit? Yeah, I think they did it for
like at least 2 seasons, like a few years ago.
Coming out for the bonanza or just coming out to fish them?
Just
coming out to fish.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, they're fun, man. They I mean, they school big time. So if you find one, you usually find a bunch. And if they're hungry, then it's a steady hot bite, and they fight hard. It's awesome.
Tell us a little bit more now about what you're doing now, because I know. So after you got done with everything here at Iowa, I know you're up there in the Northeast now in New York. What are you doing up there, man? Like, tell us a little bit about your current job and just what you're doing and what kind of fish you're. I saw your Facebook pictures, pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
of stuff you can talk about it, but I mean, yeah, what kind of fish are you're going after, and just what you're doing up there, man?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, after I guess even before I finished my master's, I was interviewing for a job up here. I know a couple people in Iowa who are actually from New York, and so they told me about this position, and I've heard all kinds of stories about how great New York is. And so I had to apply, got the interview, things went well, got offered the position. And so I actually accepted the position before I wrapped up my master's. Moved out here in August, and I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because of the pandemic, but I got to quarantine at a marina on Lake Ontario.
Nice.
So that wasn't so bad. Did a little bit of fishing there, definitely. Yeah, so the position I have up here now is I'm a senior research support specialist. It's kind of a sophisticated name. I'm basically a lab manager for a fisheries research lab at SUNY ESF, which is a small college that's adjacent to Syracuse University in Syracuse. And so I help coordinate. I help coordinate research and lab work and make sure things are running smoothly for this lab. We operate out of a biological station called the Thousand Islands Biological Station, which is up near Clayton, New York. It's on a little island, which is fun. So I get to live on an island from late April-ish through October. So I just moved back to Syracuse like a week and a half ago. Kind of missing the island life, but it was cold up there when I moved off. We were starting to get some nasty weather, some freezing temperatures and stuff. And then we got another warm spell. So I kind of wish I was up there. Yeah, so I work in this fisheries research lab. We do a lot of research on muskie, walleye, and northern pike reproduction. So there's a lot of restoration efforts in wetlands. Like channel excavations and installation of spawning pools for these fish. So after these restoration efforts are conducted, we go back and evaluate these restorations, determine if they're working. And that involves a lot of sampling, as well as just going out and checking these areas, making sure things look okay, make sure that these restorations are functioning as they should. We do some round goby research. So the round goby is another Great Lakes invader. Add it to the list. They've been here, man, 15, 20 years. I'm not totally sure. The smallmouth fishermen love them because the smallmouth love them. So there's a lot of footballs up here, a lot of really nice smallies, but these round gobies carry a virus, which is called viral hemorrhagic septicemia. And it's detrimental to other fish species, particularly muskies. So these gobies got in, the muskie population's kind of tanked. And the muskie fishery up here is huge. I mean, world renowned, just monster fish. You know, you get 60 inchers. Like,
Jeez.
Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think last year the lab sampled one that was like 57, which is just insane. You know, I've seen a couple 50s, and a 50 is insane. I can't imagine a fish that's 5 foot long. Like, it's just, it's crazy.
Ooh, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. So there's a lot of research in the lab going on, evaluating these round gobies, their reproduction, diets, like some mercury analysis on those. But then we also do a lot of sampling for muskies. So hopefully next year we can collect a few breeding pairs and actually spawn them. So we have some raceways and stuff on the island, so we can actually, ideally, if we can get the adults that we need, we can propagate our own muskies and pike and stock them into the system to help bolster restoration efforts on the river. But we do a lot of sampling just of like the nearshore fish community, evaluating everything we see in our nets. We don't do any shocking up here, which is a little different to me, but we do a lot of netting. So we still handle a ton of fish. Really, when I got up here, we were just working on seining for muskies, some young a year, like natural reproduction fish. So they were 6 to 8 inches, and we were trying to get some pit tags in them, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with from Big Creek and Brushy Creek. Yeah, we're pit tagging those fish, and then hopefully next year or in coming years, we can recapture them to get some information about survival, growth, site fidelity, stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a ton going on up here. It's a really complicated system, a really important system, and yeah, the lab I'm working in is doing a lot of cool research, so I'm having a really good time. And because there's a lot of cool fisheries up here, I get to do a lot of cool fishing too, which is fun. Yeah, it's not too bad. Although I am going to say this, I do miss the big bluegills in Iowa.
Oh, wow.
I miss them. I haven't been able to find them out here yet, and those things are an absolute blast. I like fly fishing a lot, so they were a lot of fun on the fly rod, but we do have a lot of salmonids out here, which I never got to target. So I've caught some Chinook salmon since I got out here. Biggest one was 45 inches. So that was on the fly rod. So that was,
man.
Oh dude, it was nuts. It was crazy. I actually hooked up, I think 8 times before I got one to the net, because they just fight like crazy. Caught my first steelhead a couple weeks ago, and I've been trying to catch a big brown, trying to catch some more steelhead and stuff, because they're running really hard right now. And then this winter, I plan on getting on the ice. We have Oneida Lake, which is full of perch and walleye and all that good stuff. So hopefully I can find some of those. No, definitely a lot of good fishing opportunities out here too.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear you bring up those bluegills. I was like, man, New York's got to have so much cool fish up there.
Man, you know, there are, but I haven't been able to find any big bluegills. Like, all I've caught are 5 to 6 inches, and they're skinny.
Really?
And everywhere in Iowa, man, you know, you got those 7 to 9 inches, maybe even some 10 inches, and they're fat and they're mean and they fight so hard. I'm sure they're up here somewhere, but they were everywhere in Iowa, which I definitely miss.
True.
So what's the new species that you enjoy targeting up there? Because I know you've been catching like those trouts and salmons up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The salmon thing was fun, but they don't always bite. A lot of the time you're kind of just trying to snag them in the mouth. And so, yeah. So that gets old kind of quick. The first one I caught, I mean, that my first day out fishing for them, when I hooked up a bunch, they were definitely biting. I wasn't snagging them that day. They were biting. But as the spawn progresses and those fish aren't as fresh, you know, they're not fresh from the lake, they start to get kind of nasty. They don't really want to eat anymore. So I kind of got over the salmon thing pretty quick. I'm really on the steelhead and brown trout train right now. I got out last weekend and I sucked. I caught a couple of kings, but they were basically dead. So that wasn't much fun. A guy I was with caught like 4 browns and 4 steelhead, and one of the browns was like 29 inches.
Wow.
Another steelhead was about the same. I mean, he was slaying them. So really, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But I'm looking forward to ice season 2 and trying to figure out these walleyes, because Oneida Lake is supposed to be full of them. And I've got live scope now. So
Yeah,
big
I remember
baller.
you were selling all your stuff when you were back here in Iowa last season.
Oh yeah, trying to liquidate, man. Live scope was not cheap, so
no, it's not.
Yeah,
It's not.
but I knew I was gonna buy it sometime, and I figure I might as well bite the bullet and start using it at least. So
I wanted to ask you, because I don't know if, do you know much about the salmon run? Like, to somebody who doesn't really know, how they do the spawn, and then they actually die at the end and everything, because some people don't know that. They're just, because some people just don't know anything about salmons. Like, I barely know a little bit. I just know that happens. And if you don't mind, can you explaining that a little bit, just so people who are like, salmon, because they think, you talk to people about salmon, they don't really know much about it, but they are intrigued about it. But I hear about the salmon run all the time.
Yeah. So salmon are they're anadromous, so they spend most of their life in big water, either lakes or salt water, until it's time to reproduce. And then they run to these rivers with some flow to spawn. And so they're fall spawners. Steelhead spawn in the spring, and I guess they don't die every year. So these fall spawning salmon, they run in from Lake Ontario into the tributaries, start running up as far as they can. There's dams everywhere, so typically they end up getting stopped by a dam. There are some fish ladders that they can pass, but salmon reproduction here in New York is pretty limited. There's a lot of stocking that goes on, but those fish still run. They still try to spawn. And the salmon run, I want to say, it starts in mid to late September, just depending on temperatures and flows and stuff like that. And then it goes on. You'll see salmon into November and stuff, but by that point, they're starting to get pretty nasty. But yeah, basically they spawn in the tributaries. They run up and try to spawn. As soon as they're done spawning, they die, and there's dead, rotting salmon everywhere. So it's kind of a weird life history, but that's the way it is.
I'm telling you, it threw me for a loop when I looked into it. I was like, I forgot. I heard about it, and I looked at it, I was like, what? What do you mean they spawn and they just die? I mean, I'm like, it's so weird. That's what they do.
Yeah, they die. It's kind of a weird deal. And I mean, there's, some places there's so many salmon that spawn and die that, it leads to changes in nutrient cycling and all sorts of stuff, because you just have so many darn fish that are decaying at the same time. It's a crazy deal, man.
Yeah.
So they're cool. You kind of got to fish for them early if you actually want to fish for them and not just snag them. They're fun when you snag them too, but it's not the same. Exactly.
When I think of salmon, I think of like the ocean fish, and I think of sushi. Can you use like a Great Lake salmon for sushi, or I don't know what's up with that?
Hey, I had to stop. This had nothing to do with that we're Asian, by the way. But Kit, that was awesome, Kit.
Well, I love sushi, and my favorite fish for sushi is
and
salmon.
I do too. But I just want to spit that out because I want to know too.
You like salmon better than tuna?
I do. It's fattier. That's why I like it more.
I agree too. Yeah.
Fair point. I would not use Great Lakes salmon.
Okay.
It's a lot of people call them mud sharks. They're they're not something you really want to eat anyways. So the Great Lakes and a lot of the tributaries and stuff up here suffered a lot during the Industrial Revolution. So there's a lot of contaminants and stuff in the water. Yeah, and really places up here, like I mean there's been a lot of good efforts to help clean up our waterways, help clean up our lakes. Like, things are getting better, the fish are getting cleaner, but that doesn't change the fact that they're still kind of full of PCBs and other nasty stuff you don't want to eat too much of. So I definitely wouldn't make sushi with them. You can eat them, you just kind of have to watch how much you eat. I think for an adult male and women over 60, you can have like a meal a month or something like that. So it's pretty restrictive. And that's for those those larger bodied fish like your steelheads and browns and stuff, some of the stuff that doesn't live as long and doesn't accumulate as much of those PCBs and mercury and whatever else, like perch, panfish, whatever, you can eat those and not feel too bad about it. But
right.
The salmon up here are not the nice salmon fillets you see when you go to the seafood department at Hy-Vee. You know, they're not so nice and pink and delicious. They're okay. You know, if you smoke them, if you prep them right, they're not bad. I have some smoked salmon in the freezer I need to crack into. And if you're going to eat them, you want to eat the fresh ones. You want to get them early, because the salmon I caught this last week, you would not want to put in your mouth.
Gotcha.
I'll tell you that.
Makes sense. No, it makes sense. And I think the salmon that you're talking about, though, Kit, is out there, like, because we caught them when deep sea fishing when I used to live in California in the Bay Area. That's the type of salmon that we did sashimi and all that sushi stuff with, Kit. So, but yeah, I've seen the one that Robbie was talking about. It doesn't look appetizing. That fish, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen the fish. It doesn't look appetizing. I think I think you have a picture, right? Did you post up recently?
Yeah, I posted one on Facebook, and that's the thing. That's a fresh one too. They get nasty, man. They get pretty gross. They're a fun fight, but I don't think I'm ever gonna keep another one. I mean, the steelhead eat fine. The browns eat okay too. I wouldn't make sushi with them, but you know, smoked or whatever, they're pretty good eating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, that's a good question. That's definitely a good question. Yeah, when I was in Iowa, I was kind of like, oh man, I'm gonna come out here and just eat salmon 4 times a week and be living the dream. And it's like, oh, I don't want to do that actually. Never mind.
What you got out there? Like, nope, this is not what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's funny. I guess, you know, being up there now, you can kind of see how the muskies react and also the walleyes react. I mean, how different are they in regards to temperament characteristic? Are they up there versus out down here in Iowa?
Yeah, you know, that's one. I'll have to come on with you guys again at some point, like after next spring, and I can probably answer that question for you. So I started in August, and our field work kind of wrapped up like late September, mid-October, somewhere around there. So I haven't even seen an adult walleye or muskie since I got up here. I've seen like a dozen young a year muskies, so those fish are like 5 to 8 inches, somewhere in that range. But I'm sure the behavior is different. You know, it's a big river. It's a big system. Those fish move a ton. It's inevitable. They move a ton. And there's also a ton of vegetation up here. So I'm interested to see how they interact with the veg, because there's all the bays and stuff are just full of it. It's absolutely crazy. But there's also a lot of deep water, and it's really clear water. So I'm assuming those fish are using deeper water than they do in Big Creek and Brushy Creek. I mean, Brushy Creek's clear, but you know, those fish would still use pretty shallow water. Here you got, on a good day, you got 20, 25 foot of visibility. So yeah, I mean, if that fish is in shallow water, you're going to see it. It's not going to want to be there. So there's guys trolling for walleye out here with lead core line and whatnot, trolling in 70, 80 feet of water. So I know it's totally foreign to me, man. It sounds crazy, but yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one. Sorry.
Cool. No, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Is there any like white bass, or how's the crappie fishing up there too?
Ah, man. 2 things I'm gonna miss, Kit. 2 things I'm gonna miss. There's not white bass. There's not yellow bass. There's white perch in some of the systems, which I've never caught one of those. We had them in Kansas. They're kind of a nuisance species in Kansas, at least, but they get pretty big up here. So I'm going to see if I can find some of those at some point. As far as crappies go, there's some around, and I know they get big. I mean, my boss and some of my coworkers have told me about 15, 16 inches. Yeah. So nice fish, but they're all black crappie up here. There's no whites, I don't think. And I don't think they're anywhere near as numerous as they were in Iowa. So yeah, I'm gonna miss that. I love my crappies too, but I'm hoping I can find some big perch to make up for it.
Yeah. I heard New York's got some pretty good perch.
Oh yeah. That was one thing. I wasn't very good at catching the smallies on the St. Lawrence when I was up at the field station, but I was able to find the perch. Okay, you know, I was able to go out and get a dinner and a bag of fish to freeze if I wanted to keep some fish. So there's a lot of perch to go around.
You see a lot more people fishing out there due to COVID?
I'm interested to see. I mean, I got out here at a time where things were kind of starting to wind down in terms of the tourism and fishing. But I've heard that like opening day for smallmouth and stuff, because there's closed seasons here. So that's totally new to me too. Yeah. So smallmouth, I think, opens in like mid to late April. And I've heard that the smallmouth opener, or I guess the black bass opener, is just absolutely ridiculous. Our island, our field station's based on, there'll be boats basically just around the entire island. But my boss caught 30 smallmouth off of the dock on opening day this year. So, I mean, it's, there's people fishing there for a reason. It definitely gets a lot of pressure. I would assume it's been getting some more because of COVID, definitely. But I guess I don't know that for sure. When I got up here, things have been kind of slow. So
I don't really know the geography of New York. How far away from the ocean are you? Is it like the other side of the state?
yeah, basically. I think, man, honestly, I'd have to look it up too, kid. I'm kind of new here too. I want to say I'm like 7.5 or 8 hours from New York City.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a little ways out, but Syracuse, you got Lake Ontario, which is about an hour away, and then the St. Lawrence River is closer to 2 hours. But there's a lot of big water nearby, just not necessarily salt water. Yeah. But I one of the grad students working in the lab I work for up here is from Massachusetts, and he has been telling me all sorts of stories about fishing for stripers and all sorts of stuff on the coast. So I'm hoping I can get out and chase those at some point. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I wanted to get into. It's like
the stripers.
Like, yeah, the stripers.
Yeah, you'll have to get up here. I'll talk to him. You got to fly fish for him though.
Oh, man, that'd be amazing.
Like I said, man, I have a hard enough time catching fish regularly, man. And fly fishing, I don't know if I can pick that up. It's just like going to be brand new, obviously. To me.
I remember how that was when I first started. It was pretty ugly. I don't know, man. There's days now where I think the fly rod outfishes the spinning gear.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not often. I think I'm definitely more effective with spinning gear, for sure. But there's some days, some situations where that fly rod and some of those small bugs and stuff you can just present so carefully. I think the fly rod can outfish the spinning rod sometimes. Yeah, and it's just a different feeling too. I don't know. I enjoy it a lot, but I got spinning rods and bait casters and stuff on the wall here. I got ice fishing gear over there. I got stuff everywhere. So I just enjoy it all.
Yeah, I feel like you kind of went down a fly fishing rabbit hole because you're tying your own flies and all that stuff.
Yeah, I started fly tying when I was working on my bachelor's, but I didn't get real serious until, man, probably when I started fishing muskies, because I really wanted to get a muskie on the fly rod in Iowa. It didn't happen, but I started getting into tying some of those more intricate flies, like some 8 to 10 inch streamers that are articulated and stuff. Then when COVID happened, I basically started tying every night. So I mean, you can't really see people. So it's just like, well, I'm just going to watch Netflix and tie flies. And yeah, the fly boxes are overflowing now. I've been tying a bunch. I got my vise set up right here behind me. I tied a bunch. We're going on a fishing trip this weekend. I tied like 40 egg sucking leeches, and I actually tied some saltwater flies for a guy yesterday. So I'm starting to. I've definitely gotten more into the fly fishing side of things. I enjoy it a lot. So
yeah, I saw some of your pictures of your fly ties. I'm like, dang, man, yeah, it was pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, they're not perfect. They're not the best, but they are a lot better than they were a year ago. So
there you go.
Yeah,
can't beat that, man. You ever gonna come back to Iowa, man? Visit?
I want to get back to the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas. I went to Iowa. I visited places here and there throughout my first 25 years or whatever, but I couldn't really pass up the opportunity to move to New York and just see some sights and kind of see what a different style of living is like in a different part of the country. And the job I'm working now is typically like a 2 to 3 year deal. It's not permanent. It's not permanent by any means. So I was just happy to have a job offer during COVID. So I took it, and I'm out here and I'm happy. Yeah, no, I definitely think I want to get back to the Midwest. Iowa's great. Kansas is great. I really enjoy Minnesota and Wisconsin as well. They're great states. So yeah, I think I do want to get back out that way. I actually saw a job posting for a biologist job in Kansas like yesterday, and it looked like a pretty sweet gig. And it's like, oh man, like I mean, I can't bail on my job here. That'd be such a terrible thing to do.
Right.
But I'm hoping in a couple years there's an opportunity somewhere in the Midwest and I can get back out that way.
We gotta get out there one time though. Okay, we gotta get out to the Northeast when we get a chance.
That's a journey.
It's a journey, but I mean, I'm hoping once the girls are a little bit bigger and a little more self-sufficient, I can travel a little bit further in regards to fishing wise, like states and stuff, because I gotta take advantage of that if I can. So
yeah. Well, yeah, if you want to chase some of those big salmon or steelhead or browns, man, New York's a great place to do it. I would, if you're on a limited time schedule, I'd say definitely hire a guide. Without a guide, you're kind of just going to flounder and it might be a wasted trip. But there's definitely some crazy opportunities out here. There's a lot of big fish.
How far away are you from Toronto?
Ooh, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think I'm like 4 hours from Niagara Falls. I don't know if that clears anything up.
The reason why I asked that is because we had Taro on our podcast. I don't know if you know Taro.
You had Taro?
Taro Murata.
You had Taro?
It don't matter because his episode is going to come out first anyways. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, well, last week we had him on, but it's going to air before yours airs.
Yeah, it'll air before yours.
How'd you get him on? Man, he's cool. I watched him on 39 Hours.
Yeah, see?
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. That's so cool.
Dude is wild.
Yeah, he's wild.
He's crazy, but man, you can't deny that energy. He loves it.
Exactly. And, a lot of people are like, he's the way. Is he that way in real life? Yeah, he is. He really is. And he didn't even need beer. That's a crazy thing. He's just the way he is without beer, man.
He didn't drink beer at all?
Nope, he doesn't drink, man. So
just fishing fanatics, I guess.
Yeah, he was pretty cool, but he lives in Toronto, so in that area, so that's why I was asking, because if we ever did get out there, we might as well make a real trip of it and get him, because he's a guy. That's what he does for a living, you were just saying. So that's why.
Oh, that's cool, man. I'll have to. Man, I'm looking forward to watching that one. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun, man. So
yeah,
we got a few in the pipeline.
Sorry, we'll let you in on a few secrets on that one. So we'll let you know about that one. We just did that one recently, so that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, anything else, Kid? Man, I'm awesome, dude. We gotta get Robbie back for sure. Like he was saying, after I think spring, for sure we got to get him back on so we can learn a little bit more about the muskies and the walleyes up there. But I know you wanted to pick Robbie's brain all night long, man. What else you got for him, man?
I think we hit like most of the things I wanted to talk about when we're kind of rolling near the end. I just try to see what our guest is up to. Like, so if people want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you? And what do you got coming up? Like, what's Robbie's next move?
What's my next move?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I've really had people try to get a hold of me before.
Oh, you will after this.
Well, so I mean, I guess I can give you guys my email and phone number or whatever. And yeah, if people want to talk about my research here, my research back there, fishing, whatever, I'm happy to talk about it all. So yeah, I can get you guys my contact info, I guess, to include in the comments or whatever in the description. My next move, well, I'm back in town for the winter, so basically just a lot of computer work, working on data entry, quality control, writing reports, organizing databases, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But
exciting.
Oh, so exciting. You could tell I'm really excited.
Yep.
No, this winter I'll have some opportunities to get out in the field. We do muskrat surveys. So I'm going to help lead that. I don't really know what all that entails, but it'll be a learning experience. And then come early spring, we'll be right back at it doing our immigration netting for northern pike. So, there's a lot of stuff coming up for sure. But yeah, right now, just kind of either sitting behind a computer screen or working on boats or trailers, just shutting things down for the year.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, cool, man. Man, it was awesome, dude. I had a lot of fun. Definitely going to have you back on. I learned a lot. I want to learn some more from you. I'm definitely excited to hear, what you find out actually from your research in regards to the muskies and the walleyes and everything. So I'm pretty excited just to see. I want to see the difference. Like, like you were saying, like they have to act differently.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we've got one of the research projects going on in the lab right now. it's kind of still in the early stages of development, so we don't know exactly where it's going, but it could involve some acoustic telemetry, like I discussed what's going to be going on at Big Creek and Brushy. Mm-hmm. So acoustic telemetry, but on the St. Lawrence River with a variety of game species. So cool. Definitely might have some interesting movement data to talk about with you guys at some point. It's not my data, so I probably won't have all kinds of crazy insight like I do for Big Creek and Brushy, but yeah, hopefully I can come back with something valuable next time.
You did this time too, man. So thank you so much, man. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your wisdom, brother. So just keep grinding out there, right?
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, Robbie.